What if I told you that one of rock's greatest hits was actually written as a weapon? A recording studio where screaming matches only stopped when the red light came on. A band consuming several miles of cocaine, while 3 relationships exploded simultaneously. And one song so vicious that the woman it targeted had to sing backup vocals on her own public humiliation. This is the story of the song that tore Fleetwood Mac apart, but made them legends. Our story begins not with superstars, but with 2 struggling musicians trying to make it in the unforgiving landscape of 1970s Los Angeles. Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks weren't legends yet. They were barely surviving. It all started back in high school in California when Nicks first heard Buckingham play a version of California Dreamin'. She later recalled thinking he was a darling and joined him in harmony. That moment would change both their lives forever. From there, they evolved from a psychedelic rock band called Fritz in 1967 to a dedicated folk rock duo after Fritz disbanded in 1972. Before we move on, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. The 2 lovers believed they had something special, and in 1973 they got their shot. Polydor Records signed them, and they released their self-titled debut album, Buckingham Nicks. They poured their hearts into it, crafting intricate harmonies and showcasing Buckingham's innovative guitar work. But the music industry can be brutal, and despite their formidable talent, the album was a commercial failure. Polydor dropped them without ceremony. Suddenly, these 2 dreamers found themselves waiting tables and cleaning houses just to survive in Los Angeles. Nicks worked a variety of menial jobs, while Buckingham toured as a session guitarist with the Everly Brothers. It was during this period of professional despair that Nicks wrote some of her most enduring songs, including Rhiannon and Landslide. The latter inspired by the scenery of Aspen and what she described as the slowly deteriorating state of their relationship. By late 1974, their romance was crumbling, but their musical partnership remained intact. Little did they know that their personal and professional lives were about to become impossibly intertwined in ways that would create both their greatest success and their deepest pain. Sometimes destiny arrives as a phone call on New Year's Eve. In late 1974, Mick Fleetwood was searching for a new recording studio when producer Keith Olsen played him a track called Frozen Love from the Buckingham Nicks album. Captivated by Buckingham's distinctive guitar work, and with guitarist Bob Welsh having just left to pursue a solo career, he knew he'd found his replacement. On New Year's Eve 1974, Fleetwood called Lindsey Buckingham with an offer to join Fleetwood Mac. But Buckingham's response would change the course of music history. He and Nicks were a package deal, and he would not join without her. Fleetwood accepted, and on January 1st, 1975, the new lineup of Fleetwood Mac was born. This wasn't just a business decision, it was a trap disguised as an opportunity. The package deal locked 2 people whose romance was already fraying into a professional arrangement where they would be forced to work together, live together, and tour together, with no avenue for escape from their personal conflicts. What started as Buckingham's loyalty to Nicks became the shackle that would bind them in a state of unresolved emotional agony, turning their creative process into a form of public couples therapy with millions of listeners as their audience. By early 1976, when the 5 members of Fleetwood Mac gathered to begin recording what would become Rumors, they weren't just making music, they were documenting a complete emotional apocalypse in real time. The studio at the record plant in California became a pressure cooker of personal turmoil. The album's title, suggested by John McVie, was a direct reference to the fact that these songs served as a raw, intimate diary of their crumbling relationships. As Stevie Nicks would later put it, devastation leads to writing good things. Let's break down the soap opera. First, you had Buckingham and Nicks, whose on-again, off-again relationship had finally reached its breaking point. Their separation was marked by dramatic public screaming matches that reportedly only ceased when the recording light was on. Unlike some couples who fight behind closed doors, their conflict was an open wound, bleeding directly into their music. Then there were John and Christine McVie, the rhythm section, both musically and romantically, whose 8-year marriage was dissolving with what they called British reserve, a cold, professional silence in the studio where they avoided contact outside of work sessions. Christine was openly having an affair with the band's lighting director, Curry Grant, which would inspire her upbeat track, You Make Loving Fun. But perhaps the cruelest irony belonged to Mick Fleetwood, the man who brought this new lineup together. Just before recording began, he discovered his wife, Jenny Boyd, was having an affair with a close friend, leading to a devastating divorce. The betrayal left him emotionally shattered. In an even more confounding turn, he and Stevie Nicks would later embark on a secret, short-lived affair during the subsequent tour, adding yet another layer of complexity to the web of relationships. And through it all, the band consumed what they later described as several miles worth of cocaine. They even considered thanking their dealer in the album's liner notes, a plan scrapped only after the dealer was murdered. As Stevie Nicks reflected years later, you felt so bad about what was happening that you did a line to cheer yourself up. But here's the thing about creative genius. It often emerges from the darkest places. The chaos wasn't a distraction. It was the fuel for their collective brilliance. You can go your own way. Into this emotional hurricane stepped Go Your Own Way, the first song Lindsey Buckingham presented for the Rumors album. He wrote it in what he described as a stream of consciousness at a house the band rented in Florida, channeling his raw emotions about his breakup with Stevie directly into the track. Initially, producer Ken Calais found Buckingham's demo so non-musical that he doubted its potential. It was, essentially, an unpolished scream of anger and hurt. But sometimes the most powerful art comes from the most authentic pain. The song's lyrical core centers on what became its most famous and contentious line, "Packing up, shacking up is all you want to do." This wasn't just a lyric, it was a pointed jab, a public act of scorn aimed directly at Stevie Nicks. And Stevie knew it. She very much resented the line, later stating that Buckingham knew it wasn't true and that he included it simply to irritate her. Picture the scene, Stevie begging Lindsey to remove the lyric, and him refusing, transforming the song from a personal expression of pain into a weapon aimed directly at her heart. The fact that she would later have to sing backup vocals on this very song, providing harmonies to her own public humiliation, represents one of the most twisted forms of artistic collaboration in rock history. But here's where the story gets even more complex. While the lyrics were cruel, the music was undeniably brilliant. Christine McVie, described by Mick Fleetwood as the glue that held the band together, recognized both the brutal honesty and the musical genius of what Buckingham had created. The band was committed to the music, even if it meant performing emotional warfare in the studio and on stage. Go Your Own Way became the perfect counterpoint to Stevie's own contribution to the album, Dreams, a song she described as open and hopeful, about wanting Lindsey to be happy despite everything. The philosophical conflict between Buckingham's rage and Nicks's hope became the core thematic tension that would drive the entire Rumors album. Now, let's talk about why Go Your Own Way sounds the way it does. Because the music itself is a metaphor for the band's state, controlled, driving chaos. Lindsey Buckingham's guitar work is both aggressive and shimmering. To achieve this unique sound, he layered a dirty, distorted electric guitar over a cleaner acoustic guitar, creating what he called a single, thick instrument that provided a rich landscape to work with. This is literally the sound of personal conflict tearing the band apart from the inside. The song's propulsive energy comes from Mick Fleetwood's drumming, inspired by the Rolling Stones' Street Fighting Man. Buckingham guided Mick to play a variation of that groove. Fleetwood later characterized his approach as capitalizing on his own ineptness, using pounding toms that interweave with the guitars and a driving four-to-the-floor beat in the chorus. This relentless rhythmic foundation represents the sheer professional force that kept the band moving forward despite the emotional anarchy. John McVie's bass line provides the anchor. Buckingham initially found John's part too bouncy and requested he play a different pattern to hold the tension of the verses, only allowing for a more melodic line in the choruses. This illustrates the collaborative yet controlled nature of the production, where Buckingham's artistic vision dictated the specific role of each instrument. But perhaps the most poignant element is the layered harmonies, with Stevie Nicks forced to sing along with the hostile lyrics. The intertwining vocal lines create a palpable tension, a direct echo of their unresolved drama, broadcast to the world. The song was so unorthodox that it initially confused some listeners. A famous LA DJ, B. Mitchell Reed, dismissed it on air, saying he couldn't find the beat. Buckingham, who was listening, actually called the DJ to explain that the late entrance of the acoustic guitar deliberately obscured the location of the one, making the song's rhythmic genius its initial hurdle for some listeners. When Go Your Own Way was released as the first single from Rumors in December 1976, it immediately resonated with audiences hungry for authentic emotion in their music. The raw energy and powerful sound connected with listeners in ways that polished, studio-crafted pop rock of the era simply couldn't match. The song became Fleetwood Mac's first top 10 hit in the United States, peaking at number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100. More importantly, it generated unprecedented buzz for the upcoming album. Pre-orders for Rumors reached 800,000 copies, the largest advance sale in the record label's history at the time. This momentum would eventually propel Rumors to sell over 40 million copies worldwide, cementing its place as one of the best-selling albums of all time. But success came with a price that none of them could have anticipated. The chart success forced the band to embark on a grueling 6-month tour, where their private emotional warfare became a public spectacle. The live performances of Go Your Own Way weren't just musical events, they were continuations of real-life drama, with audiences fascinated by the visible tension between the performers. Stevie Nicks openly admitted that every time those words would come on stage, "I wanted to go over and kill him." Accounts from the tour described Nicks and Buckingham having what witnesses called something akin to a meltdown on stage, with vocals breaking with anguish. The paradox of their success was that it forced them to relive their heartbreak night after night, with thousands of fans cheering them on, completely unaware of, or perhaps because of, the genuine pain they were witnessing. Christine McVie later described the experience as surreal. "We were playing out our personal lives in front of thousands of people every night, and they were loving every minute of it." Go Your Own Way didn't just succeed commercially, it captured something essential about American culture in the late 1970s. The song's themes of heartbreak, betrayal, and the necessity of moving on perfectly fit the cultural climate of an era marked by rising divorce rates and shifting social norms, especially among the baby boomer generation. The brutal honesty of the lyrics gave voice to the private struggles of millions of Americans navigating their own relationship turmoil. Rumors became what many called the soundtrack for a generation of broken homes. The album's raw emotional content spoke to people in ways that the more optimistic pop music of the early 70s simply couldn't. The song's influence extended far beyond the music charts. Its timeless themes and explosive sound cemented its place in broader pop culture through appearances in pivotal scenes in films like Forrest Gump and Casino, introducing the band's music to entirely new generations of listeners. Artists from the Cranberries to Lizzie have covered the song, each finding new emotional depths in Buckingham's composition. These covers prove that the song's raw energy and emotional complexity continue to inspire musicians decades after its creation. This feeling follows me wherever I go. Even decades later, Go Your Own Way remains an unresolved aspect of Fleetwood Mac's narrative. In a 1997 interview, Stevie Nicks still spoke of her resentment over the lyrics, contrasting them with her own open and hopeful contribution to the album. Lindsey Buckingham has reflected on the song's stream of consciousness origins, explaining his approach as just addressing the fact that maybe on Monday everything was great, but by Friday things weren't so great. The song's legacy is defined by their inability to escape its meaning, even after all these years. When Fleetwood Mac performs today, Go Your Own Way remains a centerpiece of their shows, a testament to how personal pain can be transformed into universal art. What makes this story so compelling is how it challenges our assumptions about creativity and conflict. We often think of great art as emerging from peaceful, harmonious conditions, but Go Your Own Way proves that sometimes the most powerful music comes from the most painful circumstances, when artists are forced to transform their worst moments into their greatest achievements. The story of Go Your Own Way is ultimately a story about the alchemy of anguish, how 5 people took their deepest personal pain and transformed it into something that has touched millions of lives. The song didn't tear Fleetwood Mac apart, it revealed that they were already broken. But in documenting that brokenness with such unflinching honesty, they created something eternal. If you enjoyed this deep dive into music history, hit that like and subscribe button and let us know in the comments. What song do you think perfectly captures a moment of personal or cultural transformation? Until next time, keep the music spinning!